Okay, so we have finally made it. We've finally made it to session 6, and this is where everything's going to be tied together. And I want to show you and talk about and also demonstrate with you in an example of how to really practically get into the right creation structure. Okay, so I'm just going to show you how to create consciously and how to set up a conscious structure in your mind of something you want to actually just move towards, something you want to create for the pure joy of creating. Okay, so to do this, there's actually 5 steps that we're going to go through, and it's going to help you solidify everything we've talked about, particularly in the last video, of how to set up a structure that's going to naturally pull you towards what you want to create. So using the concepts that we talked about in the last video of structure and the natural tension, the natural force of tension that wants to pull the parts together. Okay, it wants to naturally resolve itself. It's what tension does. So I'll take you through the 5 steps. And once we've talked about the 5 steps, then what we'll do is an example all together, and you can follow along in the video, of a choice that I think we should all be choosing. So let's get to that. So I'll share my screen. Okay. So here are the 5 steps to consciously create anything you desire. So the first step is to choose a true goal. Now, a true goal is something that you just want to create for the pure love of it. Okay. And it's not something that you're trying to get away from. There's not a problem to solve. It's just pure creation. So this is what a true goal is. Choosing a true goal can sometimes be challenging for people because we've always been focusing on trying to solve a problem, right? Trying to get away from something. And so really finding out what is in your heart for you to determine what is a true goal can be tricky. It can take some intuition. It can take a bit of time to figure that out, what is really true for you. But as an example, and something that I use every day for myself, is to choose a true goal for myself is to create a life that I love. And I think it's such a great choice. It's something that anyone can use and choose straight away if you don't have anything else to use. And, you know, a life that you love is not something that you're trying to get away from. It's just purely you want to move towards a life that you love. Okay, so it is a true choice. So that's the first step. The second step is to create structural tension. So the true choice is out here. And then to create that structural tension, you need 2 or more moving parts. So the second point is to just know where you are now in relation to the true choice. Okay, so it's just acknowledging, not being judgmental or critical, just acknowledging where you are now. So that's the second step. And that's what creates the tension between the now point where you are and where you want to go. So that's the tension that will naturally want to resolve itself between those 2 points. Then the third step is the emotion of the end result. And this is really key, okay? So for quite a few reasons. So the emotion of the end result is the feeling of how you will be when you create your true goal, the number 1, okay? So this is how you become now what you are trying or what you are choosing to create in the future. And it's so important because that is how you become now what it is you want to create. And in reality, the thing that we are all trying to create is a feeling. That's what we are really going for. It's not the relationship. It's not the money. It's not the house. It's what you think those things are going to make you feel inside. So that is why it's so important to get into that emotion now, because then you're matching now what it is you want to create and they must come together. It's how the universe works in terms of being a mirror. Okay. You create what you are, not what you want. And so the emotion is becoming the match for that, so it can just come to you. So really important. One of the teachers I listen to, Dr. Joe Dispenza, talks about this in detail. He has a lot of great information on creation, a lot of science behind all of this stuff that I've been talking about as well, about, you know, quantum physics and how that relates to creation, the one field, a lot of really great experiments and science that backs this up. And the way that he describes it is, he says, thoughts go out into the universe and emotion brings things back. So that's why you can see the magnet there. Emotion is the magnet that draws your creation to you. Super, super important. So that's the third part. The fourth part is unplug and recode. So what this means is, when you create these 2 points and you create this structure between now and your creation in the future, you're naturally going to produce resistance. Okay. So resistance will be anything like old beliefs or thought patterns, emotions, feelings from the past that create limits around how you're going to actually act and move towards your creation, which is step number 5. So it doesn't matter who you are or what you've created in the past. You could be the most successful person in the world at creating, but as soon as you create something new, you're gonna bring up resistance. It's just going to be a part of what you create. Okay. So I use processes and some things to help remove the resistance, and so that you can understand, for your mind to picture this, it's like a river flowing, right? It's just a river flowing downstream. Resistance is like rocks, big rocks that are in the way, that are stopping the flow of the energy. And we can use processes and conscious unpacking to pull out the rocks to let the energy flow easier, which allows you to take action more easier. So that's what step number 4 is. And then step 5 is to take aligned action. So that's, I guess, it's self-explanatory, but in between the now moment and your creation and where you're going, the bridge between those two will always be some sort of action. Okay, so there's different types of action. So there's masculine action, there's feminine action. Western society, and I guess a lot of societies, are very driven by masculine action, which is just do. But you also need feminine action, which is nurturing, which is waiting, which is, the passing of time and that sort of thing as well. So there's needs to be a balance between the two when we create something, which is the yin and the yang. And it's something that we kind of miss out. Sometimes we just need to wait. We need to let time pass. We need to nurture. And so there's always going to be action to take between, where you are now and where you want to go. So that's important. So those are the 5 steps. So now what we're going to do is go through this practically together. So you can do this as you're watching now, and I'll take you through how this all works so that you can do it yourself. And we're going to do it on choosing a life that we love, okay? Because it's just such a true choice in terms of creating something. You're not trying to get away from anything. So I always use a pen and paper to write it down. So just write down, I choose to create a life I love. I choose to create a life I love. And circle that. So that's the first point. So that's what you're going towards. Now, the next thing to do is to create the structural tension. So this is where you just notice now. So you can do that by closing your eyes. It's much easier to feel things and imagine and that sort of thing when your eyes are closed. So if you close your eyes, just look at where you are now in relation to the true choice of creating a life that you love. So maybe you're frustrated, you're in a job that you don't like, you don't have a great relationship, you're not in good health, whatever it is, just don't judge or be critical, but just notice where you are now, because you need to set up that structure and the tension between the two. So that's always the second point, is just notice where you are now in relation to your true choice. Now, the third point, and I'd say one of the most important, is to get into the emotion of the end result. So once again, you just close your eyes and you just imagine creating and having the life that you love. So whatever that is for you, just imagine, who would you be with? How does that feel? What are you doing? And just really get into the emotion of what it is you're creating. Super, super important, because that's how you become it now. And you are a match. You are it now. You must become it now. You must be it before you will see it. So that's how you be it, through the emotion of it. So that's why you use those end goals to create that emotion. So once you've got that, you can go to step 4, which is unplug and recode. So some of the questions that you can ask yourself when you're looking from the now moment to where you're going, things like what are some of the beliefs that pop up? What are some of the limiting beliefs I have when I think about trying to create a life that I love? I've tried before and it's failed. Things don't work. There's something wrong with me. I'm not enough. I'm not worthy. What are the beliefs that start to come up? So that's one of the things that can consciously bring up resistance towards you moving towards that. You can also ask, what emotions do I feel? Sometimes emotions can act as resistance towards us taking action. Obviously fear is a huge emotion that stops us taking action. So am I feeling fear? What are some of the inner conflicts that you have? So an inner conflict is something like, if you say the sentence, I want to create a life I love, but what comes after that but? So I want to create a life I love, but I don't know the next action to take, or I don't feel it's possible for me, or I see everyone else around me that they're not living a life that they love, so how can I? Just notice what comes up. Another question you can ask is, how do I define myself in relation to a life I love? How do I define myself? How do I define other people? So you could define yourself as not capable of creating a life you love. And you can define other people as having the capability to create what they love. You could ask, how do I define the world? The world is a difficult place to create. So, you can see how you can look at your own resistance that you're creating towards this true choice. So there's other questions you can ask. What judgments do you have? What judgments do you have about yourself, about others and the world as well? And you'll just start to find that you'll start to see things you've never seen before. When you're truly in that structure and you're asking these questions, things will start to come up, and you just go with what comes up, because this is your intuition trying to push up to help you see the resistance, okay? And then the last thing is to take aligned action. So there's always action to take, and it's something that you can use intuition to get. If you can't see clearly, I mean, generally it's pretty obvious about what action we need to take. But if you can't see clearly, you can get into the structure, imagine it where you are now and where you're going, and just ask, what is the next action I need to take? And whatever pops into your mind, just trust it. Okay. So that's the 5 steps. That is the 5 steps on how to consciously create. And, you know, of course, there's a lot more, you know, that I could share, but this is just an introduction to the theory and the practice around creating. But what I've just taken you through there today, you can practice on all the things you want to create in your life. So whether it be, you know, creating health, wealth and finances, relationships, creating a business, anything it is that you're looking to create, you can set up conscious structures for everything. And like I said, these naturally want to resolve themselves. And when you start doing this, you'll realize that your mind is going to start searching for the answers. It's going to, as the mind does, it's always going to ask how, right? So when you set up the what, the mind starts to look for the solutions. It wants to know how. That's really what the mind is always asking, how. So it's going to ask, how do I go from here to here? How do I create this? So for example, you might hear things you've never heard before, whether it be, you know, out in the world in conversations, listening to the radio and movies. You know, you'll start to hear things because you're asking your mind for these answers. You might start to intuit more ideas. You will definitely start to meet the right people. So, you know, look out for that. And you'll just find that things will start to converge and take shape when you stay in that structure and practice it every day. It's really, really important to practice every day. Anything you want to become good at. We all know this, right? We don't do it, but we all know it. But, you know, this is your life, right? So make this a part of your daily practice. You know, maybe you have a morning routine. Generally, the best time to do these sorts of things, where you can just really start the day off, where you're focusing your intention, your thoughts, your imagination, the emotions on the things that you want to create, and start your day by pointing your focus in the direction of what you want to create, rather than what most people do and check their social media or emails and, you know, the latest Instagram post or whatever. And, you know, if you start to cultivate this practice every day and have it, it will start to become more natural, and you'll start to be more, you'll find that your days will really just start to flow more towards what you're trying to create. And yes, it does take more effort. I'm not going to lie and say that this is the easier path. It's not. It takes a lot more effort. You know, it takes a lot more will and energy than being unconscious all the time. That is true. That is true. But the rewards are much greater as well. It really is worth it. So this is the end of the mini course at the moment. As I said, I have much more to share on this subject, as there is more detail and nuance to this. However, it is a good little introduction, and I hope it's given you some clarity around how you can create more of what you love, consciously and consistently. So I'll make more videos as, you know, more content and more thoughts come to me on how you can benefit from this wisdom and the knowledge I feel is missing from a lot of people's lives. I know it's certainly helped me a lot. And I hope that this in some way has helped you understand yourself a bit better about how creation works. And I'm sure as, you know, questions come through, I'll be able to go into more depth with some of these concepts moving forward. So I look forward to speaking with you all soon.